individuals who may be dealing with the genetic trauma of rejection. So throughout life, you may develop a strong inclination towards holding back who you really are, and trying to be whatever people want you to be accepted, and to not be rejected. You're not walking this path alone. For a lot of us, we are experiencing this. One of the most significant things that you could do is to realize that the trauma of rejection is actually like a universally experienced trauma. And just knowing that can have a profound impact on your relationships and your personal development and self-mastery. Understanding the dynamics of genetic injuries can actually illuminate some of the complexities of human interaction and help you to see things from a different perspective, which allows you to change your behavior and the way you respond to certain situations. For people with Mars that is activated in the fourth line of your body graph in genetic trauma, this indicates a likelihood that you have experienced abandonment and rejection during your childhood. And oftentimes it's at the hands of our caregivers. Now, this imprints on your DNA from birth, and it typically requires an external trigger to actually become an active force in your life, where your subconscious psyche begins to reveal itself. Individuals who have this genetic trauma may experience heartbreak, unrequited love, just a difficult time, not being defensive, not being overgiving, trying to shield yourself from possible abandonment. And this could be a really deep sense of torment within. To fortify your emotional walls and develop an inclination to, guard yourself, becoming guarded, to protect yourself from heartache, it works, but it also blocks true love. It blocks that deeper love. And the roots of abandonment and rejection oftentimes are associated with some form of betrayal, maybe that you have experienced. And sometimes, in order to protect ourselves, we will reject people before they reject us. We would create this emotional barrier around us. This trauma being healed is going to call for you to cultivate a deep self-care, self-compassionate, soul-soothing routine where you learn to nurture yourself. This specific genetic trauma, as I said, is something that has impacted the whole collective. So, what can happen is throughout the years of building these walls as we get older, we may start to feel lonely. And it's really crucial that you don't shy away from interacting with people and opening yourself up and allowing people to actually get close to you and know you. And I know it's scary, because the trauma of rejection is something I resonate with deeply. And I have always wanted to know, why am I so sensitive to being rejected? And it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't mean that you're not valuable. It doesn't mean that you are inadequate and you don't deserve the things that you desire in life. It just simply means that there is an area where you have been imprinted with this trauma, because you are the one chosen to overcome this. It's so attractive, and we have romanticized being generational curse breakers. But how do you do that if you don't know the generational genetic trauma that you're dealing with? And oftentimes the trauma of rejection, on the other side of that, you may have people in situations that come into your life who are just as emotionally unavailable as you are, but they give a lot, but it's not really any depth to the relationship. Things are kind of surfacey. And if you have the tendency to overgive and overcompensate, to sacrifice your own needs to avoid being abandoned and rejected, well, you're more likely to attract people who have more narcissistic characteristics and are attracted to somebody who's willing to be self-sacrificing to make them the center of their world, to take care of them and be there for them and provide them with everything that they need. You may find yourself in relationships where the reciprocity just isn't there. So this is something that's really common, and I wanted to go into the dynamics, the polarities, the duality, like what's on the other side of this hot topic about narcissism, and what kind of people are they attracted to. So with the trauma of rejection, oftentimes we're hypersensitive and hypervigilant. So the key to healing would be tenderness, being able to embrace tenderness towards yourself. And once your cup is full, then you can share with other people. Learning to be gentle with yourself, especially in times of pain, difficult times in life. Being able to be compassionate and not as critical towards yourself is a very powerful tool for healing this genetic trauma of rejection. Now, this approach, it sounds easy, and if you have been on this journey for a while, maybe you have found it to be a little bit more difficult than it sounded. You may find yourself trying to control the way people treat you by giving, doing, constantly being there, constantly forgiving. And, you can actually get lost in your relationships, and you can actually forget who your authentic self is. And it could lead to you being uncomfortable with being vulnerable, because if there's a risk that someone may see a shadow side of you and not like it and abandon you and reject you, well, you're going to subconsciously and unconsciously do anything to stop that from happening. So navigating through the world with this genetic trauma, without being able to cultivate this deep self-compassion, it would also lead to you not being gentle with other people, because you're not gentle with yourself. So on the surface, you may seem like a gentle person, but if you tend to be critical, perfectionistic, pointing out everything that you did wrong, every mistake, every flaw, and measuring yourself up by other people, comparing yourself, over time, the false self gets tired. One thing about the ego is fragile, and the ego tires out. And so that inability to be compassionate and gentleness will eventually come out. And this is the reason why in a lot of relationships, people are like, I feel like I'm not in a relationship with the same person that I fell in love with. And it's oftentimes because of these genetic traumas. And it actually does impact our ability to be empathic and compassionate. And again, once hard times come, that's when the false self mask comes off, and you start to feel like an imposter. And people may even feel like you're a hypocrite. So the goal is to be committed to your self-care, to be devoted to this. The goal is to allow yourself to feel your emotions, to validate your own emotions, especially those that ain't cute and acceptable, like being angry, being sad and grieving. Sometimes we try to avoid those types of emotions because the 3D Matrix has programmed us to believe these emotions mean that you're not a lovable, worthy, good, or strong person. And again, a lot of us through childhood conditioning learn, in order for me not to be abandoned, I must not give anybody any reason to reject me. And those vows we created as children, they stick and they go into your Akashic record, and you will operate from a space of not being mindful, a space of, not being aware, because it's painful to look at these things and accept them as being something that has been the driving force behind your life. So this specific trauma shows up in the fourth line. And remember, genetic traumas are based on the placement of Mars within your chart. And so the flip side of this is some good news, right? Is that people with this trauma actually can create a really strong sense of intimacy and healing this trauma. You can actually create this energy around you of being self-validated, and it will inspire other people to be vulnerable and accept their authentic selves, discover their authentic selves from the false self, and see that they are valuable as well. So all of these traumas provide gifts. It's not just negative. On the other side of every trauma, there is a triumphant person inside, just waiting to shine and waiting to get the opportunity to actually create the life that you desire and that you deserve. There is a huge potential for people with this trauma to create relationships that actually foster compassion and love. And y'all know I'm in love with studying archetypes, and Kuan Yin, she is a goddess of compassion. And working with her helped me so much to heal this trauma. And so one of the things that I see missing is the spiritual element to personal development and self-mastery. Being able to use divinity as a template to guide you into the person that you desire to be. Now, that's what's a little different about me and my approach to healing. So if you want to gain a deeper understanding about this and figure out, is this your specific genetic trauma, or even somebody you're in a relationship with, even your children, like learning about these are going to help us as a collective, not just personally. So this would be a great time for you to step into this deeper exploration into the subconscious mind, book an Akashic record human design reading with me, where I will go over these genetic traumas. And in this journey of self-discovery, you will be able to have the opportunity to actually unravel the impact of these wounds that you receive, maybe even not just in this life, but past lives. And this will help to cultivate more resilience, more self-awareness. Then you won't have to depend on your external world to make you feel safe and supported and able to be your true authentic self. The true healing work starts on the inside. And a lot of times we try to change our world on the outside, which is simply the veneer, without making any changes to the inside. And when I say inside, there are levels to inside, right? It's levels to everything. It's dimensions to everything. So when you are opening your Akashic record, you're learning your specific mechanisms. What makes you tick? What lights you up? What doesn't? What actually depletes your confidence? What decreases your self-worth? What makes you feel valuable and what doesn't? What type of careers, what type of people, what type of situations are showing up in your day-to-day life to help you be able to access this new version of you, right? To get the new me to stay in the present moment, even in the midst of chaos, in the midst of conflict, in the midst of triggers, in the midst of a relationship that maybe is falling apart and is really hurting you because you don't know how you got there. You don't know what's happening. So if any of these resonate with you, and maybe even something that I didn't mention, because again, our subconscious programming impacts every aspect of life. So I would like to invite you on this journey. I am running a really, really sweet deal right now for you to be able to have this experience with me. I will hold space with you. I will give you everything possible for you to be this version of yourself that you obviously know that you can be, because if you didn't, you wouldn't be here watching this video. And that means that there is an element of you that believes in you and that you are capable of doing this, and you are being divinely guided to be able to get the tools and resources that will allow you to transcend your traumas, to overcome your triggers, to not create a life out of fear and what you seek to avoid, but a life out of what you love and what you are ready to explore and experience and create. We are creators. We are not reactors. We are new, clear creators, not nuclear reactors. All we needed was the tools. the sacred space, a non-judgmental space, and the support. So I would love to hold that space with you. As I've mentioned in previous videos, in case that you missed those, this takes me a few days to put together. I will send you a file, probably of anywhere from 80 to 100 pages, all about you. And you will have 30 days where you can download this or print it out, however, whatever you want to do. And I will also spend an hour discussing with you anything that stood out, that you highlighted, had questions about, or something that speaks to a certain area of life that you've been seeking to find an innovative approach to cultivating a different experience. So that's what I'm offering to you. And hopefully you've got to this part of the video and you're like, you know what? I'm ready to do this. I'm not gonna avoid investing in mastering myself and knowing myself on this deeper level. Because as I mentioned before, in order for us to change what we see in the world, we must start with the man in the mirror. Michael, he just slide in with his quotes whenever he wants to. I appreciate it though. But start with the man in the mirror. And, the universe is asking us to make a change. And, if you want to make the world a better place, take a look at yourself and make a change. I'm really trying to be professional, but this is just how I work. I'm a medium and I communicate with the ethers. This is why I'm a Akashic record reader. So yeah. Anyway, look like me and Michael got some talking to do. He might have some more things that he would like to share with me. A lot of wisdom and people who have transcended to the spiritual dimension is available. But yes, this is what you can expect to be receiving and happening. And like I said, it's unique. It's unlike anything else that I've ever experienced. And it is really a pleasure for me to be able to offer this to you. All right. Namaste. Namaste.